Hello everyone, Jackson here, and welcome back to the channel. Another year, another brutal heat wave, and if you do nothing right now, your garden can go from healthy and productive to wilted, burned, and dying in just a few days. I'm not saying that to scare you. I'm saying it because this is exactly what happens to gardeners every single summer. One week your tomatoes are loaded, your peppers look strong, your cucumbers are climbing, and everything feels under control. Then the temperatures spike, the sun turns harsh, the soil dries faster than you can keep up with it, and suddenly your plants are stressed, stunted, scorched, and dropping flowers like crazy. So let me say this clearly. Do not wait until your plants are already collapsing to take action. By the time your garden looks like it is in trouble, the stress has already been building for days. Heat damage is one of those problems that moves fast, and if you want to save your garden before it dies, you need to act before the worst of it hits. In today's video, I'm going to show you 7 powerful ways to protect your garden during a heat wave. These are practical, realistic things that home gardeners can actually do. No fluff, no filler, no complicated theory that sounds good but doesn't help in real life. These are the exact types of strategies that keep plants alive, reduce stress, protect production, and help your garden push through extreme summer weather without falling apart. And make sure you stay with me all the way to the end, because the last tip is one of the most overlooked mistakes gardeners make during heat waves. A lot of people think they are helping their plants, but they are actually making the situation worse. So if you want better harvests and healthier plants even in extreme summer conditions, this entire video matters. Let's jump right into it. Number 1. Give your plants shade before they beg for it. If there is one thing you do after hearing this video, make it this. Give your garden shade during intense heat. This is one of the fastest, easiest, and most effective ways to stop heat damage before it destroys your plants. When most people think about summer gardening, they assume more sun always means more growth. But there is a point where sunlight stops helping and starts hurting. During a heat wave, your plants are not just enjoying bright summer sunshine. They are being blasted with intense light, extreme leaf temperature, excessive evaporation, and non-stop stress. That combination can burn leaves, bleach fruit, slow growth, cause blossom drop, and push the plant into survival mode. And when a plant goes into survival mode, production suffers. It doesn't matter how well you fertilized earlier in the season. It doesn't matter how much effort you put into planting. If the plant is overwhelmed by the heat, it shifts energy away from growing fruit and towards simply trying to stay alive. That is where shade comes in. A simple shade cloth can lower the stress level in your garden dramatically. It helps filter the harshest sunlight while still allowing enough light through for healthy growth. You are not putting your plants into darkness. You are reducing the intensity so they can function normally instead of burning out. This matters especially for crops like tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, lettuce, beans, and young transplants. Even plants that love warm weather can hit a limit. When the air is hot and the leaf surface gets even hotter, photosynthesis slows down. Pollen becomes less viable. Flowers abort. Fruit can sun-scald. The plant starts losing the battle. A good shade cloth changes the environment just enough to make a major difference. It can cool the plant canopy, reduce water loss, and keep the leaves from taking such a severe beating in the middle of the day. If you're growing in raised beds, this is even easier. You can set up hoops, a frame, stakes, or a lightweight support system and drape shade cloth over it. If your garden is larger, you can suspend it overhead so you can still walk and work underneath it. The goal is simple. Soften the harsh midday sun during the most dangerous part of the day. And here's the important part. Don't wait until everything looks terrible. If the forecast is calling for a heat wave, install shade before the worst temperatures arrive. Prevention always works better than rescue. A lot of gardeners lose plants because they react too late. They wait until the leaves curl, the flowers drop, and the garden looks exhausted. At that point, the damage is already happening. If you get the shade up early, your plants never have to enter panic mode in the first place. If you want to save your garden fast, shading is one of the smartest moves you can make. Number 2, mulch like your garden's life depends on it. Because during a heat wave, it absolutely does. Bare soil is one of the biggest mistakes you can have in summer. If your soil is exposed to direct sun all day, it heats up fast, dries out fast, and creates a miserable environment for roots. And if the roots are stressed, the whole plant is stressed. People often focus on what they see above ground: wilted leaves, burned edges, stalled growth. But the real battle is happening below the surface. Roots are the engine of the plant. They take up water, nutrients, and oxygen. They support growth and fruiting. And when the soil gets too hot and too dry, that engine starts to fail. Mulch acts like a protective shield. It covers the soil, blocks direct sunlight, reduces evaporation, keeps moisture more stable, and helps moderate temperature swings. That means the root zone stays cooler and more consistent, which gives your plants a much better chance of handling extreme heat. Without mulch, the top layer of your soil can turn into a hot crust. Water disappears quickly. You end up having to water more often, but the soil still doesn't stay comfortable for long. With mulch, the soil holds onto moisture longer and doesn't get blasted as hard by the sun. This is huge during a heat wave because plant stress is rarely caused by just one factor. It's not only heat, it's heat plus dry soil, plus hot roots, plus uneven watering, plus intense sunlight, plus wind. All of those stressors stack on top of each other. Mulch helps reduce several of them at once. Organic mulches are especially useful because they improve the soil over time while protecting it now. Straw, shredded leaves, composted bark, untreated grass clippings, pine straw, and wood chips can all work depending on what you have access to. The exact material matters less than making sure the soil is covered. And don't go too thin. A weak little layer won't do much in extreme conditions. You want enough mulch to actually protect the surface and reduce evaporation. A solid layer around your plants can completely change how the bed performs in hot weather. Another benefit people underestimate is weed suppression. Weeds compete for water, and during a heat wave, that competition gets even more serious. Every weed you leave in the bed is pulling moisture and nutrients away from your crops at the exact moment your crops need every advantage they can get. Mulch helps cut that problem down before it gets out of hand. So if your garden is still sitting with exposed soil, do not delay this step. Mulch is not optional in extreme summer gardening. It is one of the foundations of survival. Number 3. Stop surface watering and start watering deeply. This is where a lot of gardens go wrong. When the heat hits hard, people panic water. They go outside every afternoon, spray the surface, wet the leaves, splash the beds, and feel like they helped. But shallow watering during a heat wave often creates weak plants, inconsistent moisture, and roots that stay too close to the surface. And shallow roots suffer first. If your watering only moistens the top inch or two of soil, the plant never has a reason to push roots deeper. That means when the top layer dries out, which happens very fast in summer, the plant immediately experiences stress. Then you water again. Then it dries again. Then you water again. The plant gets trapped in a constant cycle of instability. Deep watering changes that. When you water thoroughly and let that moisture penetrate into the root zone, you train the plant to grow deeper, stronger roots. Deeper roots mean better drought resistance, better nutrient uptake, and more resilience during long hot stretches. The plant has access to moisture that lasts longer, so it is not depending on the surface staying wet all the time. This is especially important during heat waves, because a stressed plant needs consistency more than anything. Not constant flooding, not random splashing. Consistency. A deep soak in the early morning is far more effective than a quick evening sprinkle. Morning watering gives the plant a reservoir of moisture before the hottest part of the day begins. It also reduces the amount of water lost to immediate evaporation and gives foliage time to dry if any gets wet. If possible, avoid watering in the peak heat of the afternoon unless the plant is in genuine emergency wilt. Watering on scorching soil in the middle of the day can waste moisture quickly, and spraying leaves under strong sun is often not the best routine. The key idea is simple: water less frequently, but more deeply and more intentionally. And once you combine deep watering with mulch, now you have a system that works. The water goes down where it matters, and the mulch helps keep it there longer. That is how you build a garden that can actually ride out summer stress instead of reacting to it every few hours. If your plants are struggling, don't just ask, "Am I watering enough?" Ask, "Am I watering correctly?" Because in a heat wave, technique matters just as much as quantity. Number 4, use drip irrigation or soaker systems if you can. If you really want to level up your summer garden, especially during dangerous heat, install drip irrigation or a soaker hose system. This is one of the best long-term improvements you can make. Why? Because heat waves punish inconsistency. If you are hand watering every now and then based on when you have time, energy, or motivation, your plants are going to feel those ups and downs. One day they get plenty. The next day you're busy. The next day it's too hot to stand outside long enough. Then the soil dries, the plants stress, and production drops. Drip irrigation removes a lot of that chaos. Instead of spraying everything broadly and hoping enough water reaches the root zone, drip delivers water slowly and directly where the plant needs it. That means less waste, less evaporation, less leaf wetness, and more efficient moisture management. In other words, more of your water actually helps the plant. This matters a lot in extreme heat because every gallon counts. When temperatures soar, overhead watering loses a lot to evaporation, especially if it is done during the wrong time of day. Drip systems are more controlled, more targeted, and much easier to repeat consistently. And let's be honest, during a serious heat wave, the garden is often not the only thing suffering. You are suffering too. It's exhausting to drag hoses, stand in direct sun, and guess whether everything got enough water. The more physically difficult watering becomes, the more likely people are to put it off. That delay can be all it takes for sensitive crops to start declining. A drip system, even a very simple one, takes the pressure off. You can run it early. You can automate it. You can water deeply without standing outside for an hour in brutal weather. And when gardening becomes easier to maintain, your plants get better care. That is a point many people overlook. The best system is not just the one that works for plants. It is the one you will actually use consistently. If you do not have drip irrigation yet, don't feel overwhelmed. You do not need an enormous professional setup to get the benefits. Even a basic hose-connected system can make a major difference. The point is to move toward reliable root zone watering instead of random surface spraying. During a heat wave, reliability wins. Number 5, delay stressful garden tasks until the heat breaks. This is a big one, and it can save you from making a bad situation worse. When gardeners see plants struggling, the instinct is often to do more. Prune more, transplant more, fertilize more, tie things up, rearrange beds, pull everything apart, and fix it immediately. But during a heat wave, many common garden tasks become extra stressful for plants. Think about what your plants are already dealing with: high temperatures, intense sunlight, water loss, reduced recovery ability, limited energy. That is not the moment to ask them to bounce back from root disturbance, hard pruning, aggressive feeding, or major changes. If you transplant during extreme heat, the roots may not establish well. If you prune heavily, the plant can lose valuable leaf cover that was protecting fruit and stems. If you fertilize too hard, especially with fast-acting nitrogen, you may push soft new growth at exactly the wrong time. That tender growth is even more vulnerable to heat stress. In other words, not every problem should be fixed immediately. Sometimes the smartest move is to stabilize first and intervene later. During a heat wave, your main priorities should be protecting, cooling, watering properly, and reducing additional stress. Keep the plant alive, keep it functioning. Once the weather moderates, then you can go back and make structural changes. This also applies to harvesting habits. If fruit is ready, harvest it. Do not leave overripe produce hanging and draining the plant's energy. Picking ripe vegetables can actually reduce stress because the plant is no longer trying to maintain fruit that is already finished. But avoid turning harvest into a full-scale plant surgery session. Be gentle during extreme weather. Plants do not recover from shock as quickly when heat is pounding them day after day. A lot of successful gardening is knowing when to act and when to stop touching things. During a heat wave, restraint can be a lifesaver. Number 6. Know which plants need priority protection. Not every crop reacts to heat the same way, and this is where smart gardeners get ahead. If you only have limited shade, limited time, or limited resources, you need to protect the most vulnerable plants first. Young seedlings and recent transplants should be at the top of your list. Their roots are not fully established yet, so they have very little margin for error. A few brutally hot days can wipe them out fast if they are not protected. Leafy greens are also highly vulnerable. Lettuce, spinach, arugula, cilantro, and other tender crops can bolt, burn, or collapse quickly in intense heat. If you are trying to stretch these crops deeper into summer, shade is often the difference between survival and failure. Tomatoes may love warmth, but once temperatures cross certain thresholds, especially for extended periods, pollination suffers. Flowers can drop, fruit set can slow, and exposed fruit can sun scald. Peppers often handle heat better than some crops, but even peppers can pause production if conditions become extreme enough. Cucumbers can wilt dramatically and turn bitter under stress. Beans may stop producing well. Squash can struggle if watering becomes uneven. Fruiting plants may still look alive while silently losing productivity. That is why appearance alone can fool you. A plant can stay green and yet stop setting fruit because the heat is interfering with reproduction. So prioritize based on both vulnerability and value. Ask yourself, which plants are most likely to die, stall, or stop producing if I do nothing? Start there. This approach helps especially when you cannot cover the whole garden at once. Maybe you only have one piece of shade cloth today. Then put it where it protects the crops that need it most. Maybe you only have enough mulch for a few beds. Start with the most sensitive root zones. Maybe your irrigation is limited. Make sure the highest value plants get deep, reliable watering first. Gardening well is not always about doing everything everywhere. Sometimes it is about knowing where your effort matters most. And during a heat wave, that decision can save a season. Number 7. Stop waiting for visible damage before you take heat seriously. This is the final point, and honestly, it may be the most important of all. A lot of gardeners respond to heat the way people respond to health problems. If they do not see obvious symptoms yet, they assume everything is fine, but heat stress often builds quietly before it becomes dramatic. Your plants may look decent in the morning and still be under serious strain. They may remain green while root stress, flower abortion, poor pollination, slowed growth, and internal damage are already happening. By the time the leaves are crisp, the fruit is scorched, and the plants are collapsing, you are no longer preventing damage. You are dealing with consequences. So stop using obvious collapse as your signal to begin caring. If the forecast says extreme heat is coming, that is your signal. If nights stay hot and the soil is drying faster than normal, that is your signal. If you notice flowers dropping, leaves curling by midday, or growth slowing, that is your signal. The earlier you move, the easier the save. This shift in mindset is what separates reactive gardening from proactive gardening. Reactive gardening waits for disaster and then scrambles. Proactive gardening sees the conditions forming and protects the crop before failure begins. That is exactly how you keep a garden productive through summer, instead of watching it decline week by week. Now let's pull all of this together. A heat wave attacks your garden from several angles at once. It raises leaf temperature. It overheats the soil. It speeds up evaporation. It stresses roots. It disrupts pollination. It weakens growth. It increases the chance of blossom drop, sun scald, bitterness, wilting, and reduced harvests. So if you want real protection, you need a response that covers all the major pressure points. That means give plants shade, mulch the soil, water deeply, use drip if possible, avoid extra stress, protect sensitive crops first, and act before the damage becomes obvious. That is how you build a garden that can endure brutal weather. And I want to say something important here. Do not assume this only applies to gardeners in the hottest regions. Yes, if you live in a place with long, brutal summers, These steps are essential. But even if you live in an area where heat waves come and go, you still need to be ready. All it takes is one badly timed stretch of extreme weather to knock back a beautiful garden. A lot of people lose plants not because they are bad gardeners, but because they underestimate how quickly summer stress can spiral. They think, I'll deal with it if it gets worse. Then it gets worse fast. Gardening rewards preparation. And in summer, preparation is protection. If you are serious about keeping your garden alive and productive, make your heat plan now, not later. Walk your garden today and ask yourself a few simple questions. Which beds have bare soil? Which crops are fully exposed to afternoon sun? Which plants are drying out the fastest? Which areas need mulch? Which crops would benefit from shade? Which watering habits need to improve? Which plants are most vulnerable if the next 7 days turn extreme? Those answers will tell you exactly what to do next. And here is the good news. You do not have to fix everything in one day. Even small changes can make a major difference. One shade setup can save a bed. One deep watering routine can stabilize stressed plants. One layer of mulch can protect roots. One irrigation improvement can completely change how the garden performs in hot weather. The goal is not perfection. The goal is survival, stability, and continued production. And once you see how much difference these strategies make, you will never want to garden through summer without them again. Because the truth is, a great summer garden is usually not the one that gets the best weather. It is the one that is best prepared for bad weather. That is the difference. And if you build around that mindset, your garden becomes tougher, more resilient, and more productive year after year. So before I wrap this up, let me give you one simple action plan. If your area is about to get hit by a heat wave, do these things first. Get shade over your most vulnerable crops. Mulch every exposed bed you can. Deeply water in the early morning. Reduce unnecessary stress on plants. Harvest what is ready. Watch for flower drop and signs of root zone dryness. And stay ahead of the forecast instead of reacting after the damage is done. If you do that, your odds of saving the garden go way up. And that is what this channel is all about. Real solutions, real gardening, real results. My name is Jackson, and I want this video to help you protect the work you have already put into your garden. Because growing food, flowers, herbs, and fruit takes time, patience, effort, and care. It is painful to watch that work get wiped out by a stretch of extreme heat, but a lot of that damage can be prevented if you move early and make smart decisions. So do not panic, prepare, do not guess, protect, do not wait, act now. Your garden can still come through this strong. If you found this video helpful, make sure you subscribe, leave a like, and share it with another gardener who needs this before the next heat wave hits. And in the comments, let me know what your biggest summer gardening challenge is, because I'd love to make more videos that help you grow better in real-world conditions. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. This is Jackson, wishing you a healthy garden, strong harvests, and cooler days ahead. Take care, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye and happy gardening.